Mr. Burchett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll miss your leadership. Appreciate your friendship, brother. Mr. Secretary, 13 brave Americans lost their lives. One of them, his people live in my area, and I live on the street named after him, Staff Sergeant Ryan Canals. And I remind folks that 13 brave Americans lost their lives, and there's a lot of moms and dads that lost their kids because of this. And the blood is on your all's hands, and that needs to be acknowledged. But Mr. Secretary, in your opening remarks, you stated that al-Qaeda is not regrouped in Afghanistan. A friend of mine who just returned from there wants you to know that al-Qaeda, in fact, has thousands of fighters in Afghanistan and 8 new bases there. One of those bases is in the Panjshir Valley, which is the home to Afghan resistance. In July of 2024, a call was issued to foreign fighters around the world to migrate to Afghanistan and join the ranks of the jihad. This was widely covered by the media, and in fact, there is video evidence of al-Qaeda fighting alongside the Taliban. Knowing all that, is Hamza bin Laden still alive?
I couldn't tell you definitively.
Well, he was, if people don't know, he's the leader of al-Qaeda, and his father, Osama bin Laden, was killed. Hamza was thought to be dead sometime in 2019, but new reports suggest that he is alive and still in charge of al-Qaeda. What is the relationship between Taliban, al-Qaeda, and ISIS?
When it comes to ISIS, which is the group that is of greatest concern in Afghanistan, the relationship between the Taliban and ISIS is deeply adversarial. The Taliban sees ISIS as its #1 enemy, and it has the will, but not necessarily the capacity, to deal effectively with it. Al-Qaeda is a different story. This is obviously a group that the Taliban in the past has collaborated with, given shelter to, and otherwise acquiesced to.
Okay, what has the State Department done briefly to unify the Afghan resistance groups who want to drive out the Taliban?
There is not much of a resistance active in trying to do that.
All right. Well, my friend Legend, an Afghan-American and former U.S. Army non-commissioned officers, traveled to Afghanistan after the collapse and reports that the Taliban has been benefiting from U.S. cash shipments sent to the Afghan Central Bank. This is American funds. And that sanctioned terrorists are diverting U.S. aid meant for the Afghan people. Why are we giving the Taliban millions in taxpayers' dollars while they hold Americans hostage and are killing the Afghan people? And in my opinion, sir, they will hate us for free. We don't need giving them money.
We're not giving the Taliban anything. As I discussed with Congressman Mast, we are providing money, as many other countries are, to UN agencies, NGOs, to help the Afghan people.
And these agencies are funding the Taliban. Reports are saying between 40 and 80 million U.S. tax dollars are given to the Taliban every dadgum week. I mean, is that acceptable?
According to the report that I read and that the Congressman referred to, the CIGAR's report, of the approximately $8 billion that the international community, including the United States, has dedicated to Afghanistan, about $10 million of that is 0.1%, has no doubt gotten to the Taliban in terms
I don't care if it's a dadgum
utilities.
penny. I don't care if it's a penny. I mean, for you to sit up here and admit that our enemies, I mean, these people swear to hate Christians and Jews, and that takes care of about everybody in this dadgum room. And we're sending them, I don't care if it's 1%, and you can, but let me tell you, $10 million is a hell of a lot of money to the people I represent, sir, and it needs to be something that you all, let me get on my questions of running out. I've invited President Salih and Commander Massoud of the Afghan resistance of the U.S. to meet with myself and colleagues. Will the State Department work to facilitate their entry into the country to meet with Congress?
I'll be happy to follow up with your office on that.
All right. Just for the record, this State Department has funded our enemies, and they've turned a blind eye to our open southern border. U.S. Border Patrol has caught known terrorists sneaking into our country, likely using our tax dollars to do so, and this disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan was not a solution. It was the beginning of a much bigger problem waiting to happen. Let me ask you one more question. The committee asked, Mr. Secretary, according to Ambassador Kazalad, I'm not sure how you say that, do you believe the Taliban violated the Doha Agreement, and you purportedly advised President Biden during the interagency review to endorse the agreement conditions and not withdraw until the Taliban complied?
The Taliban was in violation of the Doha Agreement in a number of ways. It was in violation when the previous administration drew down forces repeatedly It was in violation during the time that we were in office before the evacuation. But
Why
as I
did you
said,
advise conditional?
when it comes to the agreement, what we tried to do was to get them to abide by the conditions, notably to engage in a negotiation with the Afghan government to produce a new government that would bring everyone together. They didn't do that, but because we had the deadline and because we had the prospect of the Taliban resuming attacks on U.S. forces, which would have required us to put tens of thousands of Americans back into Afghanistan, we followed through with pulling them out.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, it's clear to me that this group is clearly out of their league, and the new administration couldn't get here fast enough. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.